And welcome once again to another edition of Strange Planet. Thanks for sticking me in your ear. Well, it's one thing to stick me in your ear. How would you like to have me inside your head, literally? That day may be coming. I think I've talked a number of times about my disdain for, I've got a smartphone, and it's an iPhone 10, I think it is. I don't know. I don't pay attention. There's another one coming out, another iteration every 10 minutes. But I keep teasing my wife and my family. I'd like to go back to a flip phone. I'm not being flippant. I mean that sincerely. It's taken over my life, and I don't like it. And I think that in the not too distant future, a sign of maybe success will be not being able to, not being reachable. People won't be able to get a hold of you anymore. That might be a status symbol one day. But we're going to delve into smartphones, brain phones, in fact. And let me just crib here from sort of the publicity surrounding an amazing book that came out last year. It's called The Brain Phone Prophecy: Stop Corporations and the Government from Inserting a Smartphone in Your Brain. Do you think your smartphone might be controlling too much of your life these days? Wait till they insert it in your brain. Due to a perfect storm among powerful corporations, powerful governments, and futuristic, mesmerizing phone technology, you will soon be asked to have a next generation of smartphone physically inserted into your brain. Many of your friends will say yes, buying into the wonders the device promises. The reality, however, will be much more nightmarish. Don't want the implant? Too bad. The government will want you to get one. Will controlling entities monitor your thoughts? You bet. Will artificial intelligence take over the network? It's likely. Will the brain phone eventually ruin humankind as we know it? Yes, it will. All right, that's a rather frightening scenario, and that's where we're heading next. Data analyst and author Scott Snair cautioning that smartphone technology might soon be directly implanted in the brain. He's a writer, data analyst in Washington, D.C. He has nearly 20 years of experience using and teaching data analytics, technology, research, and writing. His books have been published in 10 languages throughout the world by publishers including Penguin, Random House, McGraw Hill, and Adventures Unlimited Press. Scott maintains his certification as a data privacy engineer with the IT Professional Association. He holds a Ph.D. in higher education management from Seton Hall University and a Bachelor of Science in Management from West Point, where he was president of his class. He is, again, the author of The Brain Phone Prophecy. Scott, welcome to Strange Planet. How are you?
Thanks, Richard. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So the origins of this book go back quite a ways, actually, almost 20 years, right about the time that smartphones and were starting to take off. So what was the impetus for this brain phone prophecy?
I'll tell you what it was. Well, two things actually, but the one that really got me interested in writing this book was they were humorous at the time, kind of like laughing at people that are so stupid that their
The Darwin
stupidity
Awards.
kills themselves.
Yeah, the Darwin
Right,
Awards. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, and talk about thinning out the herd. These are people who climb up a very steep mountain and they're so proud of themselves, and they take their iPhone and they're trying to get the right shot of them with the valley in the background, and they don't see where they're going, and they fall off the cliff. And I don't know why, shame on me, but I really found that rather hilarious at the time. And then it started happening more and more. I guess like the first couple of years after the iPhone came out, the number of people that were falling to their deaths because they were trying to get the perfect selfie of them, standing on a bridge or standing at a cliff, it was going up in leaps and bounds from 100 every year, and now I think it's thousands. And I was like, I mean, just like any manufacturer, you have to give the customer what they want. And I said, Eureka, of course, what they're going to do is they're going to put this technology somewhere in our brains, back by the optic nerve or something, so that people can um, kind of maintain control of where they're at and what they're doing, and maintain control of the use of both hands and both feet, so that they're not falling to their deaths, when they're trying to get the perfect picture. Also, if you implant it in your head, you'll be able to see the world through your eyes. In other words, your eyes become the camera eye, and I think that that'll give people that are trying to take the perfect selfie a better sense of where they're at and what they're doing, and what the photo will look like. Again, without losing track of where they're at and falling to their deaths. The other thing that happened uh, is, and this is a little sadder, although people falling to their deaths is sad too. I shouldn't make fun, but I lost both parents in the same year. Not too long ago, I lost my dad to kidney failure and my mom to Alzheimer's, and it gave me a sense of my own, short time on this planet. And I said, I just want to. I've written several books on things that I felt were good messages for the world. Not that I'm anybody special, but for example, my first book was on business meetings. I thought people were spending too much time on business meetings. There were some people out there at the time, and still, that do very well by not having meetings. Some people run their whole businesses without ever having a business meeting, and I think they're better humans for it. And
Right.
certainly their employees are uh, you know uh, working in a better workplace because of it. But so, through the years, I've written these books on, what could we do to make life better for ourselves. And I saw this kind of happening on the horizon. People thought I was crazy when I first started writing this book. And then, of course, Neuralink was announced, and all of a sudden I didn't seem so wacky anymore. And but I did. I wanted to put this book out and say, you know what, guys, let's step back for a second and really look at this, and maybe look at the research, look at the science, um, look at other things that people have put in their minds that may or may not have been good for them, and maybe decide that quite frankly, maybe we need some laws against this sort of thing, at least in the United States. And so that's where I'm at.
So again, the idea was the prophecy, and it's coming true. Um, Miniaturize the technology, which is kind of interesting because cell phones started out fairly small. I mean, the flip phone. This is interesting. Usually the technology gets smaller. We started out with these little tiny flip phones. You could slip it in the back
Right,
of
right.
your hip pocket, and now that now we're the iPhone 10 is bigger and bigger and bigger. So we're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
back to those huge bricks that they used to, on Miami
That's
Vice, I
right.
remember. So, but they're going to miniaturize it. This would be sold as a safety feature, right? If we're hands free, we're not going to have our head down, looking at our shoes, or into our phone rather, as we cross the street, get hit by a
Yes.
car. We're not going to fall off a mountainside going for the perfect selfie. It's going to be sold as a safety feature. Um, how else are they going to? I mean, because in the book you say we're going to be pretty much compelled. I mean, it almost sounds like Mark of the Beast kind of stuff. Like, without this in your brain, you will not be able to buy or sell, or you'll be an outlander.
Yes, absolutely. Well, my thinking, and not just hey, this is going to be safe. You're not going to have to worry about driving and texting anymore, because you're going to be able to do it in your mind while you're driving. You don't have to worry about looking down at your screen at a text while you're driving. Certainly, there's going to be some safety features that way. I think what's going to happen is the way they're going to get people that are older and hesitant to do this sort of thing. I 20-year-olds, I think they'll just be like, can I game on it? Yeah, you can game on it. You know, will the battery last longer than 24 hours? Yeah, the battery will last longer than 24. Okay, I'm in. You know, go to the store and just have some robot put it in, and that'll be the end of it. But people, you know, middle age and older, I think there's gonna have to be persuasion, and at least initially, you know, once two-thirds of society has it, just like you said, you know, if you want to get paid, you know, if you want your paycheck to show up, it's going to have to go through your bank account in your head. And if you want to work and you want to attend meetings that are virtual, you're going to have the implant. If you want to work for this company, you're going to have to have the implant. But to get to that point where two-thirds of society has it, and then they impose themselves on the other one-third, I think there's going to have to be a catalyst. I think it's going to be something. Um, I'm thinking of some type of virus or some type of health issue that causes people maybe to have seizures. Uh, so, you know, instead of something that infects your lungs or your throat or whatever, it's going to be something, you know, and I mean, let's face it, viruses are they're becoming more dangerous now because of the earth warming up. So it's not so crazy that some bird virus that causes seizures in birds would transfer themselves to us, and all hell breaks loose. And then somebody who's been kind of sitting in, you know, sitting in the in the shadows with this device that the Food and Drug Administration doesn't want to approve. It's going to say, "Whoa, wait a minute! My brain phone cures people of the seizures caused by this new virus." Now all of a sudden, people are going to be like, "Well, I'm either going to die of seizures or I'm going to get the brain phone. All right, open me up, put the doggone thing in." And then again, once we get to two-thirds of society and everybody gets acclimated to it, and of course, there's going to be some amazing things. You know, you want to go on a date with a girl who doesn't speak your language. You learn, you know, all of us, you hit a button and all of a sudden you have Spanish in your head. You can ask her out on a date because she speaks Spanish. You want to take her to Paris and you want to sit with her in a boat on the Seine River and canoodle with her. You can do so virtually in your mind with the two of you just sitting in a, you know, in a living room somewhere. And
Well, that
oh my gosh.
that virtual reality aspect, I think it was comedian Dennis Miller who made this observation. When you can, now I'm going to date myself here with this reference, but when all of a sudden, you know, sitting alone in your apartment and you got nothing going for you, but you can go on a date with Morgan Fairchild,
Mhm.
that is going to make, Dennis Miller's line is, that's going to make crack cocaine look like Sanka. I mean,
Yes,
that is
absolutely.
going to that alone will bring civilization to its knees.
I think it's well, I and it's funny you mentioned that. I talk uh, a lot in the book about the addictive nature of this, and you're just, you know, people are like, well, you can turn it off at night when you go to sleep. No, no, people aren't gonna want to sleep. It's gonna be like the short dopamine loops that we see now with kids on Instagram and that sort of thing. You know, those that social media combined with something that's in your head and can never really be turned off. I don't know. I think it's going to be highly addictive. I think everybody's going to wind up looking like those meth addicts that you see in those year four photos, you know, with their faces all pockmarked and they look like they've got one foot in the grave. I think we're all going to look like that.
Well, the marriage of the mobile phone with social media and TikTok in particular. I mean, they've now created a new term for this syndrome called TikTok brain. and just the it's not so much, it's not necessarily the content. It's, well, it's like Marshall McLuhan. The medium is the message. It's the medium. It's the scrolling through all of these reels on TikTok. And yes, the content can be sometimes objectionable or it can be benign or whatever. But the act of scrolling, it's hypnotic, and they're calling it TikTok brain. And so students now and teachers don't know how to combat this because they don't have the, I guess, the wherewithal to tell them to, put the phone down or have a zero tolerance on these mobile phones in school. But kids, it's delaying their development, their cognitive development, their emotional development. We're losing a generation.
I couldn't agree with you more, and it really is a heartbreaking thing to see. I was a full-time professor. My time doing it was, or the tail end of my time doing it, the phones were just coming into being, and I was kind of amazed. It's funny because I thought, if everybody has access to all information at once, there's going to be this free flowing of ideas. There's going to be this marketplace of new concepts. And as a writer, I'm loving that. I'm like, hey, maybe somebody's going to invent a cure for cancer, with this marketplace of ideas all bumping up against each other. And it was completely the opposite. Everybody became militant, everybody became extremist in their ideas. If you didn't toe the line. I remember I wrote about it in my book. I remember um, at the time, I forget who it was. It was is it R. Kelly? Was R. Kelly the one who just went to prison recently?
Yes, the rap. Yeah,
Yeah, R.
Kelly.
R. Kelly. I remember when R. Kelly first got her exposed. It was a documentary. In other words, the guy hadn't been arrested or anything. He had just let me go ahead and turn this off. We're talking about iPhones and this is binging away. Isn't that funny? I forgot to turn it off. It's all turned off now. But anyway, see, if it was in my head, I couldn't do that. But there was this documentary, and everybody in class was talking about this documentary. All these smart young people, and they asked me what I thought, and I was like, guys, I hate to condemn somebody based on a documentary. This guy's, he's never been arrested. And even if you watch the documentary, at the time, it seemed like an awful lot of these people were of age, which means it was consensual. And I don't know. I was just like, I, I grew up in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty. Guy hasn't been arrested. It's just a documentary. They're trying to get people to watch the documentary, so it's going to be sensationalistic. Well, let me tell you, I had kids go to the dean and complain about me because I wasn't, because they were outraged by this documentary, and Dr. Snair wasn't towing the line that day.
Right.
And that's kind of when I said, you know what, this phone thing, it's got people acting a little bizarre. And I said, and it's going to be even worse once it gets implanted in our head. It's just going to be 100 times worse.
Right. Well, yeah, because we are, with algorithms and everything, and social media feeds, it's a feedback loop, and it knows what we like, and therefore it only feeds us what we like. And so we create silos.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
people have never been, as you say, more divided. And children, I mean, typically when we think of loneliness, we ascribe that unfortunate situation to the elderly. But the loneliest cohort are young people who should be out
Yes.
dancing and meeting girls and or
Yes.
meeting boys. And they think their friends are their Facebook friends who will never give them a kidney. Those are not friends.
Right.
But I'm just trying to
Yeah.
imagine now the conversion of all of these things, social media, TikTok, contained inside your brain, and this
Yes.
feedback loop just telling you what you want to hear. It almost sounds like schizophrenia.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think we know how awful it's going to be. I think, who was it? Donald Rumsfeld, who said, you have your known unknowns and your unknown unknowns and all. That's, I think there's some unknown unknowns that are just so bizarre that we just don't even know. And the problem is, let me back up for a second. Let's talk about Instagram just for a second. If Instagram were a pill, say there was a pill that you gave little kids to, I don't know, suppress a cough or whatever, and and it caused the things that Instagram is causing uh, kids to feel and react to, and you've got so many more kids, twice as many kids now committing suicide uh, as they did from the generation just before iPhones. And, tied directly to people looking at, girls looking at what they perceive to be. These girls aren't even prettier than them. They've just used
On the filters. Yeah.
Photoshop and
Mhm.
right and all that, and they're catching themselves at their best life moments and all that, and so they're comparing themselves to something that doesn't even exist, and they feel like they're missing out. They feel like life has dealt them a bad hand, um, and like you say, they're lonely. A million and one things happening because of this app, and again, they're killing themselves in really high numbers. My wife is a child psychotherapist, and she'll tell you that you know um, iPhones combined with these apps are just messing with these kids in ways we can't imagine. Anyway, so if that was a medicine, that medicine would have been taken off the market by now. We'd be saying, "Oh my God, the side effects are just so awful. We got to take this off the market." It would happen overnight once the studies were out there. So why is why are iPhones not being taken off the market? Why is certain social media sites like you mentioned TikTok, why are they not being taken off the market? Because we're addicted. Everybody's addicted. People that would be the ones to decide to take it off the market, they're addicted. It's so here's my point. Once we have these things put in our head, which is going to happen really quick, and it's going to be very painless, and it's going to catch on real fast, and people are going to be mesmerized by it. Once we realize how bad it's messing with us, how physically dangerous it is, and how it's destroying humanity, it's going to be too late because we're all going to be completely hooked.
We'll take a quick time out and come back, continue to discuss the brain phone prophecy. Scott Snair stays with us. Every new season, we find a reason to improve our lives and our health. And C60 Evo organic edible oils deliver noticeable benefits quickly. A spoonful in the morning delivers energy and endurance all day long. And I sleep deeper and wake up feeling refreshed because C60 ESS60 works. Carbon 60 received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1996 when it was used for industrial applications. C60 Evo's ESS60 is a breakthrough technology upgrading C60 to be safe for human and pet consumption. ESS60 has been called a miracle molecule because of the physical and mental benefits people are enjoying. Their lab has a proven track record of 31 years and thousands of happy customers across the world just like me. So, treat yourself, your friends, and your family to C60 Evo and use my link EVRS to get 10% off your first order. Again, my link EVRS to get 10% off your first order. Scott Snair is here, data analyst, author. The book is The Brain Phone Prophecy. And so where are we at right now? I know we talked a little bit about Elon Musk and Neuralink, and there's another one, I guess his competitor, Max Haydock? Or Hodak? Max Hodak?
Yeah.
Broke away from Elon, and he's got his version of Neuralink. Then there's something, It's called Stentrode. Stentrode.
The,
Tom
yeah,
Oxley.
yeah.
Tell me about that. Where we
Hmm.
are. What is that?
Yeah, the Stentrode's pretty amazing because it's already being used. I mean, it's already been implanted, and the thing about the Stentrode though is and for right now, it's meant to move a cursor. So if you're paralyzed and you have this implant, you can look at a computer screen and you can move a cursor with your mind. And let me just say up front, I don't begrudge anyone who is disabled not being able to do things. Um, you know, I'm Christian, and when the cochlear implants first came out, there were some Christians who said, "No, that's mark of the beast. We can't be putting that." Give me a break. You watch those videos of those people who've never heard their whole life, and now they're hearing their little kid for the first time saying, "I love you, mommy," and everybody's crying. I'm crying watching it, for goodness sake. I don't begrudge anyone the hardware. It's the software that gives me the creeps. It's the idea of corporations and mob mentality and groupthink and oppressive governments being in my head. That's what really but that's all programming. I mean, that's the software. If I were in a car accident and my cerebellum was damaged and somebody put an artificial cerebellum in my head, I could think again. I wouldn't have a problem. I don't think anybody should have an issue with that. But it's the software and the network. The idea of the network being in your mind. That's really what kind of gets to me. But I think to answer your question, where are we right now? I think we need maybe one or two um, breakthroughs to happen before this really becomes a thing. And I'll tell you what I think the two breakthroughs are. One, we have to be able to see a screen in our mind. Right now, there's nothing out there that allows us to do that. I thought when these things first, got proposed, like for example by Neuralink, I wasn't expecting anything up here. I think first they were planning something here, which would where actually part of it would be exposed. And then they decided to go up here and actually make it completely covered by skin and hair. But I thought the first ones were going to be back here. I'm thinking of that movie. You were talking about dating yourself. I'm going to date myself now. Great movie by Cronenberg called Existence with a Z,
Oh yes.
and it went that thing went into your spine at the base of your spine. So I was thinking something along there. But the reason I always thought about the back of the head was that's where the end of the optic nerve is. So
Ah,
I figured it would go back there. It would be hooked right into the optic nerve, and you'd be able to visualize a screen right in your mind. It would be one of like three different things. You would have the full screen in front of you if you were sitting down and not doing anything else, or you'd have the partial screen where you would have the augmented reality. So, for example, say you were driving somewhere, the map would show up right in your vision. You would be looking at the road, and the map would tell you that was kind of emplaced over um, the road would say, now make a left, make a right. And you would follow that augmented map that was placed right on the reality of the road itself. And then the third stage would be either turned off or in the upper left hand corner. So you could talk to somebody and still be uh, like you said, you could still be checking out Morgan Fairchild, showering or something while you're talking to somebody else, and they would have no idea that you were watching something else in your mind. Then the second thing, I think, the second breakthrough we need right now, Neuralink, I think if they're going to actually get permission to do this, there's going to be something like, I think, between 10,000 and 100,000 microscopic threads metal threads that are going to go right into the brain. That's why the FDA is having a hard time right now. They're like, we really don't see these threads staying where they're supposed to. We see them kind of moving around and messing with people's heads. And I think for this thing to actually come into being, what these scientists are going to have to do is they're going to have to find what I would call a wormhole or a portal in your brain. Um, that's how science fiction writers figured out, hey, how are we going to travel to parts of the universe where even 3 times the speed of light would take us a century to get to? How are we ever going to do that? Oh, well, you find a wormhole, you go into the wormhole in this galaxy, and you pop out in another galaxy, on the other side of the universe. And theoretically, I think it's possible. um, but that movie Interstellar, I thought that was great. The way they explained it, and they went looking for these planets that were way far away from us that might be habitable, because this planet was burning up at the time. Um, well, I see that happening inside the brain. I see an implant getting wired straight to that portal that hasn't been discovered yet. And then that portal allows us access to all the other parts of the brain. So it's just a matter of somebody discovering where that portal is. I think it exists. And 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 also, by the way, that portal might also lead to the optic nerve. So you wouldn't need to be in the optic nerve. The portal would not only give you access to the rest of the brain, but it would also give you access to that screen that I was talking about.
The other obstacle, or maybe it's not an obstacle, maybe this is by design, but whenever you've got organic matter, gray matter, and then you're going to attach pieces of plastic and metal wires and filaments and things like that. That's not. That's going to affect your behavior. That's going to affect, right? We know
Yes,
when there are implants anywhere in the brain, it changes who you are.
yes. It's there's actually a medical term, and let's see if I can remember it. It's proprioception, and basically what they have found, um, again, doing studies to try to stop people from having seizures, uh, um, or if you're about to have a seizure, you have a warning, if uh, so that you can go somewhere and be away, like out of traffic or whatever when you're about ready to have your seizure, so you're safe and people around you are safe. And they've done studies, where they've put these things to monitor the brain or to control the seizure. And in some tests, what they found is people changed personalities dramatically. They thought they were stronger than they were irritable, or they were super horny. and and it really changed. Like, the family was like, get this thing out of mom or dad's head. They're not. But more importantly, they didn't see it. In other words, it's not like the person has said, oh my goodness, I sure did wake up grumpy this morning, or a woman saying, oh my goodness, I have such PMS today. Boy, have I been a bee, um, but proprioception means you are self-aware of who you are, how you're behaving, and why you're making the decisions that you're making. And what happens with these implants, having this foreign thing in your brain, is it takes away that pre-perception. You don't know, you're making stupid decisions, and you don't even realize that you are making stupid decisions and that the reason you're doing it. And by the way, it works the other way too, that people who uh, maybe make stupid decisions on their own say, oh, well, it's this thing in my head. So you think you're making stupid decisions because of the thing in your head. That's not true. Or you're making dumb decisions because of the thing in your head, and you don't realize it. And yeah, it's a big deal. It's one of the big things that people way, way smarter than I am have written about.
All right, another time out with Scott Snair, the author of The Brain Phone Prophecy. Stay with us. November reminds us to be thankful and focused on boosting our radiant health before winter. And I use a potent remedy that's improved the quality of my life and deepened my sleep as well. I take C60 Evo olive oil every morning, and I have a lot more energy and mental focus all day long. My workouts are easier, and I have a lot more endurance. If you're into competitive sports, this is a game changer. Health is our greatest wealth, and Pura C60 ESS60 really works. ESS60 is a breakthrough technology delivering the carbon 60 miracle molecule for humans and pets. Check out the C60 Evo holiday gift collections for everyone on your list. They make amazing skin, lip, and hair repair serum that deliver noticeable results quickly. C60 Evo's lab has an impressive track record of 31 years and, of course, my personal recommendation. You deserve the best remedies on earth, and so do those you love. Buy direct from the lab and upgrade your life today. Use my code EVRS to save 10% off your first order. Again, my code EVRS and save 10% off your first order. The Brain Phone Prophecy with data analyst author Scott Snair. Just something I was going to go off in another direction, but something just occurred to me, and that is I've got my big, cumbersome, actually iPhone 10 on a desktop charging station that also holds pens and pencils and so forth. So it's anyway. How are we going to charge the phone in your head?
It's similar to the way you charge iPhones now without inserting a jack. The proximity chargers. That the Neuralink that was submitted to the FDA for a human to propose a consideration for human testing. It has a lithium battery that is proximity charged, so you would sleep with with this thing next to your head, and that's how it would charge.
Uh, well, I mean, I know there's this whole debate about non-ionizing radiation and whether that can have an effect, but I mean, there are some critics out there, even some medical people, sounding the alarms about, we're going to see this tsunami of brain cancer because people walking around with cell phones to their head. If it's inside your head and maybe your charger's inside your My Pillow, the My Pillow guy, he's going to put
Right.
he's going to put the charger right inside the pillow. I mean, I was going to say I can't see the FDA approving of that, and then I had to catch myself. Oh wait, oh yes, they will. I mean,
Well, I actually one of the reasons at this point that they've not approved the Neuralink for human trials isn't the ionization showering, but it's the heat. I think they're concerned that the lithium battery is too predisposed. The concern, as I understand it from the FDA, is that they're concerned that the lithium battery is too predisposed to overheating, and that would be a dangerous thing. So I think, but I mean, unfortunately, I think the way we find out things are carcinogenic in this world is to use them, and then we find out that they're carcinogenic. Although I would make the argument that long before it it kills us from cancer, we're all going to be in this vegetated state, with the dopamine looping, and we're just going to be like this, not really, not really doing much of anything else. That's going to kill us. I mentioned in the book, I could see like people I mentioned before. You go on a date with a young girl, you're on the Seine River and you're dating in this virtual reality, and say the date includes a virtual meal. You go to a nice French restaurant, and you're eating the escargot and stuff. Does your brain at that point register fullness? Do you think, oh, my brain just told me I ate, I must be full? and then, but again, the real you is on a couch, withering away while you think you're fully nourished. I could see that happening so easily.
Right. It's what was that Gary Newman album, The Pleasure Principle? Well, there is the concept of the pleasure principle, and they did um, experiments with rats, and they could either get a pellet of food if they pushed this button, or they could get a little I don't know what it was, a little shot of morphine or something if they pushed this button.
Yeah,
And eventually, the
yeah,
rats just emaciated and wasted away because they went for the morphine.
yes.
But
I think there was I think there was a second part to that that's actually encouraging. It might give you a little hope for humanity. When when they were by themselves, they went for the morphine, or it might have been like an ecstasy, like the ecstasy of the brain was charged or something, and they just kept hitting the button over and over again until they had one foot in the rat grave, but they just couldn't stop. But when you put a couple of them in a cage, the buddies kept the guy from doing it. Like somebody figured out, whoa. One of the rats said, "Whoa, hey, this is not good," and he, had a little rat conference with his buddies, and somehow the three of them, whenever the one decided he might go over there, the other three encouraged him to stay away. So, maybe that's maybe that's good. Maybe we'll behave like the rats and we'll try to keep each other from doing these stupid things.
I hope so. That might be the saving grace. Um, but this is, I think I don't think in the book you are arguing that this is some sort of conspiracy, mind control to turn us into, mind control slaves, so that we, dumb us down and we all end up stacking, boxes at Walmart. This is just about sheer greed and commerce, right?
Yes and no. I Well, there's a couple of things there. Initially, the thing that's gonna uh, get this rolling is, yes, absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be on the ground floor of something that everybody is going to want and need? If you are a sociopath and you don't care about anything other than money, why on earth wouldn't you want to be on the ground floor of this? So yes, there's going to be it's going to just be the free market that's going to make this happen initially. Um, However, uh, in China right now, they have something called the social credit system, where it's very similar to your credit score here in the United States, but it's a social credit score. So if you toe the line, if you don't give the Communist Party any garbage, if you keep your dog from barking late at night, you're allowed to hold a good job with a good company. You're allowed to drive. You're allowed to travel about the country without any problem. But if you don't toe the line, all of a sudden, there's a lot of things that you and I take for granted that all of a sudden you can't do, including having your travel restricted, and where you work and what type of jobs you can hold. All those things are taken away from you. Well, it turns out that China is one of the biggest investors right now of brain computer interface technology. Makes sense to me why they would want to do that. They want to put the implants in and make sure that when you say you love Big Brother, you're not just saying it, you really mean it in your heart. You just love Big Brother like there's no one else. And so I think it's going to not necessarily zombify us, to where we're all, in the scenario that you described, walking around as zombies, but behaving so under the thumb of an all-controlling government, absolutely. And it won't take long to work its way from China or Russia or North Korea
Well, it's already
to
coming here.
over here.
It's coming here in sort of dribs and drabs. I mean, we have, PayPal, for example. If they don't like your politics, you're not going to be able to engage in digital commerce.
Mhm.
It's coming here.
Yes.
I mean, is there a way out of this dystopian nightmare that we're heading towards?
Oh, by the way, I wanted to add one more point to what you're saying. You were saying it doesn't sound like there's a conspiracy. I I'm a I'm not a conspiracy guy. You might find that hard to believe. I almost called it the brain bone conspiracy, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's not a conspiracy. I'll tell you why I'm not a conspiracy guy. I think very rich, powerful people look right at us every day and collectively piss on all of us, and they say, here's what I'm doing today to control you. There is no conspiracy. They look right at us every day and tell us how they're going to urinate right on our heads. And I would say it's the same with this. There's nobody's nobody's in a secret lab anywhere planning this or that. These are all publicly held companies, and the investors are out in the open, and there's no two ways. Elon Musk is on podcasts just like this one saying, well, I think AI is going to take over one of these days. And if we're going to compete with, this new life form that's way, way ahead of us, the only way we're going to be able to compete with that is to merge with AI via the Neuralink and create. We're going to become transhumans, and we're going to have to. That's how we're going to compete with AI. Which, I mean, God bless him. At least he has a plan, and at least he's being open about it. I think it's, he does a lot of smart things with. I like some of his ideas about travel through tunnels. I like the idea of a spaceship coming down and just before it lands on Earth, turning upward and landing on its thrusters. I mean, the guy's amazing. I just think in this one particular thing, I just think he's really barking up the wrong tree. But uh, but I did want to make the point before I moved on that I don't think there's any conspiracy whatsoever. It's not a conspiracy if everybody knows exactly what the
Right,
heck is
and we
going
and
on.
we buy in, right? We're complicit
Yeah,
in our own
yeah,
enslavement. We've created
100%.
very well appointed cages for ourselves. We're very comfortable
Absolutely.
in our little prison
You
cells.
know,
Oh, is there?
back,
Oh,
not,
sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, what is there a way to avert this catastrophe?
I, I'll tell you, something happened recently that gave me a little bit of hope. And that was some of the things that have happened now with the metaverse. And there was a thinking that at some point very soon, rather than doing what you and I are doing right now, which is conversing with microphones and video, that we would have this thing up against our face, and that's how we would communicate. And it would be this virtual reality. We would have avatars, and that's how people would work and go to market and exchange ideas and that sort of thing. And what they're finding now, and again, this isn't a secret, it's all out in the open, is that a really, really good chunk of society gets sick. They get nausea, and they get physically sick when they're in these virtual realities for even a short amount of time. So, who knows? I mean, maybe we have this thing built right into us that once we have this implant, that we might just get so huge chunks of society might just get so fiercely sick that people have to have them removed. And so that was, again, not not, not to wish bad things on these investors, who poured all this money into virtual reality. But I think it's kind of a good thing. It's kind of a good thing if a lot of people are getting sick in a virtual reality. I think that's great. Um, and I have to say, I'm Christian, and I think there just might come a day where people that are very devout might say, "Oh, I can't purchase anything without my brain phone. That's all right. I'll barter. I'll barter with gold, and or I'll barter with my skills. I'll be just like the Amish are now. I'll be the new Amish, the post brain phone Amish, and I'll just live separated from society, and that's okay because I'll be a person and they'll be whatever the heck they are."
Right. I think that's probably the answer. We'll see a sort of a stratification. We'll see this parallel society or societies that will emerge. And I'm betting on the Amish. I read some interesting some demographics. The Amish are doubling their population, something like every 20 years, and they're saying within
Interesting.
300 years, the Amish will overtake the population of the United States. So
Right,
through
right.
attrition, the Amish will win. And
There you
we'll
go.
go back to churning our own butter and and all the rest. So maybe they're our saving grace. Fascinating.
There-
Scary, but
There's a
fascinating.
there's a meme going around right now. It's pretty funny. It says, man perfects AI. AI advances itself. AI enslaves people. Um, what is it? What do you call that from the sun? A sun flare. Sun flare destroys AI. Man worships sun. And I,
Aha.
I think that's pretty funny.
That's it. That's it. That might be our other saving grace, a Carrington event, another Carrington event EMP.
Right. There you go.
Scott, fascinating, scary, but fascinating. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Anytime.
And how can folks get a copy of the Brain Phone Prophecy?
Well, it's on Amazon. Again, my name is Scott Snair, but the book is the Brain Phone Prophecy. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble website, and it's in Barnes and Noble brick and mortar stores. It's in the religious section, believe it or not.
Fantastic. All right. Hope to talk again soon. Thank you.
My pleasure again.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe at strangeplanetpodcast.com.